45 meat birds later, we have finished processing them all.
Yeah, so it took us a little longer than we were anticipating. Ashley had a slight casualty of war that occurred during our processing that kind of set us back a couple of weeks in order to get back on track. So that was not very good. I'm sure there will be a picture flashed up on there for that. But yeah, so that really didn't help us. We got our chickens back in March. We actually started with about 60 of them. Kept them inside. We had our brooder set up where we had the water trough. We put our wood chips in. We had the waters. You take all your chicks and you dip all their beaks in the water and the feed and get them all going. As you can see, the cats and the dogs were very, very interested in what was going on for whatever reason, you know. Kept them inside for about 3 weeks, around 3.5 weeks. We stuck them outside in our barn. We actually put them in our barn because it was in April in Michigan. It was very wet, very cold. And so we wanted to be able to keep them out of some of the elements, and we just keep them in chicken tractors when they're outside. So they have some area, but it's not completely enclosed. So we put them on deep bedding in our barn, and we're just adding wood chips as needed. And so that actually worked out really well. That's the first time we've ever done it that way, and it was fantastic.
I think if we were to get chicks later and not so early in the spring, I would like to just start them out in there. Because the inside brooder isn't really ideal. Like, we make it work because we can keep the space warm. And then we don't have to use as many heat lamps. We don't have to, like, worry about that fire risk. So that's why we do it, but it's really not ideal to have them in the house.
It's not, but we also like to get them so that we can get them processed as early in the year as possible. That way we're not dealing with trying to process when it's hot outside, because that's miserable.
That's very true.
So, yep.
Trade-offs to everything. So we finally got them on pasture, around week 5?
Yep, around week 5 they went out from the barn, from the deep bedding, and we put them just in the chicken tractor outside. So they were out on the pasture, on the grass. Obviously we're still feeding them commercial feed, but much healthier environment being outside. Even though the deep bedding, it's not unhealthy. It was very clean in there. As long as you keep adding the wood chips to it, there's very, very little smell even. So that was really nice. The one thing with the meat birds you have to keep in mind is they're bred genetically to process food as quickly as possible. So they can get kind of stinky. Yeah. So anytime you can cut down on the smell, that's really the way to go.
One thing I noticed about these meat birds, because we did them last year as well, is that these guys really like grass. Like, we moved them and they were excited to eat the grass, and that's something I haven't seen before meat birds. Like, previously they were just excited about the feed. So that was kind of cool to see that, our meat isn't just getting that grain, it's also getting that healthy grass. It's eating like the dirt, the bugs, they're foraging, like what chickens are supposed to do.
Yep.
So Cody was primarily like the mover of the chicken tractors every day. That I did it one time.
I did all of the actual chores that went into these meat birds from day 1 till processing day. And the one time that I actually had to do it because I was at a market, and meat birds don't like to move when it's dark outside. Like, they like to sleep, which is fine. But when I have to leave early in the morning before the sun comes up to go do markets, left it all to Ashley here, who struggled mightily pretty nicely.
In my defense, meat birds can get mean and they'll go after your fingers. And I don't like my fingers being packed. Last year I had my fingers attacked quite a bit, so I was done. So I was really, really focused on like trying to keep my fingers safe, trying to gently move them. And like when they get to that size, like as large as they are, they don't move very easily, and you don't want to rush them because they could break a leg, and you want to be careful that you don't run them over with the tractor. So I was very kind of cautiously moving them slowly to make sure that we didn't hit them with the tractor and cause them to break a leg. Because that's terrible. So June helped me with them, of course, and I totally missed her taking all the duck eggs that she had found and putting them into the chicken's water bucket. And they're white, so they blend in with the bottom of the bucket.
At least there was an adult there supervising. That's good.
So, we started butchering at 9 weeks?
9 weeks, yep. It was a little bit older than we were wanting to do them. We were really wanting to hit them a bit sooner than that, but it just didn't work out for us. So.
Well, they weren't super big at 8 weeks. Like, we didn't like the size of them at 8 weeks. So we're like, let's wait 1 more week. Plus the weather was crappy.
hindsight 2020, they were plenty big enough at 8 weeks. Do them at 8 weeks at the latest. Don't wait.
So we started at 9 weeks. And we got through almost half.
Yeah.
Before
18, something like that.
I split, like I decided to sharpen a knife, and I sharpened it right on my finger. So at that point, like, I was done, because like I was like, you don't want to risk getting it infected. At that point, it can go septic, and we don't want. It's much more valuable to wait and have the finger heal up than it is to risk getting infection.
Yep.
So we finally finished
11 weeks in.
11 weeks.
They were not even small turkeys. They were medium-sized turkeys at that point. Yeah, we bought bigger bags, and then they grew more, and they were too big for the big bags. So, yeah, we ended up Ashley mainly ended up just breaking them down into their, chicken breast, thighs, legs, wings, just your standard breaking a chicken down and packaging them out that way, because they wouldn't fit in your bags.
No, but it was kind of a cool way. So I'm experimenting with a food saver. And so I kind of was able to baggage the liver, the eggs, and then the breast meat, and then the thighs and wings with the food saver to try and see how that would work. And most of them did stay. A couple of the bags, the seals broke on them.
She means legs, not eggs.
I'm sorry.
She's not food saving eggs.
No.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. I really like saving. This year I only saved chicken feet and livers. I thought about the gizzards, but I have to figure out a recipe with them. And so first off, I really want to manage figuring out a good recipe of how to use liver. Liver has a ton of health benefits, so if you can find a way to eat it, it's really, really healthy for you. And at the very least, like, we had cat food shortages up here, so I figured, you know what, we can just feed it to our cat. He'll be happy. And chicken feet, I think they are a prized gem. So I know they're really gross. They smell disgusting. They're just bleh. But you cook them in water, and you can make this most delicious fatty broth possible. It is so good. And so I froze them for now, and the reason I froze them is that we're kind of entering our hot months here in Michigan, so I really don't want the pressure canner running more than necessary. We're going to heat up the house when tomatoes come in. It's just something we can't get away from, but I don't want to add unnecessary heat.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saving it for winter time, when we really could use that heat and that humidity to warm up the house. So that's my plan with those.
It's a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you learn anything this time around doing meat birds?
Don't cut your finger.
Yeah, that's the big thing. When you're an integral part of the butchering system, be careful. Knives are sharp, especially when you've been sharpening them.
Cody and I work really well with processing birds. He's good at the respectful dispatching and the plucking and the scalding, and I can do like the internal organ.
She has smaller hands that fit better inside chickens.
Yeah.
So she does the actual evisceration and the removing of everything, getting them ready for bagging. So when she goes down with a cut finger, it kind of halts all progress. But yeah, I think we did fairly well. Other than that, we did try that deep bedding method this year, which we really like. We'll definitely be using that more in the future, even if it means we're getting the birds even sooner out of our house to where we move them out there in maybe 2 weeks. Because we were running 3 heat lamps on them still in our 4-foot by 8-foot chicken tractor. So it's not like they were getting cold out there. Like, they had plenty of heat.
They had feathers on them too.
Yeah,
they were feathered
3.5, 4 weeks.
Pretty much. Well, even at 2 weeks, they had quite a few feathers on them. And then another lesson that I kind of took away from this was adaptability.
Easy for you to say.
Because whenever, like, when you work on a homestead or a farm, things go awry. And you have to figure out how to quickly address the situation and navigate through it. And that's a life lesson that's valuable in many different fields.
Or you just hit the pause button, and then 2 weeks later you come back to butcher your medium-sized turkeys.
Learning when to hit pause too, I think, is another one that's good to learn. So.
Yeah. So.
I think that's
it.
Yeah. So thank you guys
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Till next time, friends.